MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome to the Big Small Business Show, the show for all our wonderful entrepreneurs out there. And this is Women's Month. And so we've dedicated this whole show to women. Women being the most fantastic entrepreneurs I've ever come across. I just have to tell you that I grew up with a mother as an entrepreneur. So I grew up understanding the power of women as entrepreneurs. And so we dedicate today to women entrepreneurs. And in studio with us today, we've got Debbie Wheal. She's the director and coach at Roots Coaching. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you.
Right. So I spoke about growing up with a mother that was an entrepreneur. Is that what you're experiencing in the market in terms of gender parity as entrepreneurs in the workplace?
A very interesting observation, because no. However, we are making great strides to break that imbalance that we have at the moment. So there's a couple of wins.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some of the sporting wins. Let's make it light and hearty now.
Yeah.
Paris, first time there is gender parity numbers in the Olympics. Who brought home the first gold? A woman, I'm just saying. Holly Davidson made history being the first international ref for a rugby match, South Africa versus Portugal. And then what I learned this year in sporting was the Comrades Marathon. Women were only allowed to officially run, and people of colour, in 1975. And I was 4 years old, so that's my lifetime. But it didn't mean that women didn't run it. They ran unofficially. And Mrs. Hayward was the first person that ran it, and in 1923. And the reason why women weren't allowed to run the marathons, or the Comrades Marathon, was because men didn't feel that women could cope with the distance, didn't think they could go the distance. And she finished in 11 hours and 53 minutes. Out of the 68 official starters, remember that's white men, at the Comrades on that day, 30 finished.
Sure.
68 started, 30 finished, plus Mrs. Hayward. So what I've learned from her is, and the other women that are making great strides, is that don't underestimate a woman in terms of her courage, her determination, and her grit. And if the answer is no, she'll probably do it anyway.
So this is about small business.
Yes.
This is about business. Let's talk about women in the business environment.
Yes.
Are you seeing more women into that realm? You know, there are the likes of Business Women's Association. There are a lot of prizes for international organizations for women in business. Is it working? Are you seeing it's working, or is it just lip service?
Again, that is a really difficult question to answer, because there is a lot of lip service, you're right. It is working in certain sectors. So if you look at your STEM and in your telecommunications and that kind of thing, your barrier to entry is a lot lower than, for instance, labour or those kind of sectors and industries. So women are definitely getting into market at entry level. In fact, there's a statistic in the World Economic Forum gender gap analysis now, released in June 2024, saying that 43% of women are entering the workforce. However, there's a 21% drop down when it comes to C-suite. So there's a drop-off rate of 21%, which means that there's roughly 24% of women sitting at C-suite. So yes, I'm seeing a lot of women who are entering the business world, but I'm also seeing a lot of a drop-off rate, and I see that in South Africa as well.
I want to bring it back to entrepreneurship, not necessarily women in business. You know, in talking to many women entrepreneurs over the years, there's this dual relationship with women, the concept of women empowerment. On the one side, the women are saying, why are you calling me a female entrepreneur? Why am I not just an entrepreneur? Why are you bothering to add the prefix to that? You know, so just give me your thoughts on that. I mean, you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Notice I didn't say a female entrepreneur. How would you prefer to be referenced and why?
I prefer to be seen as a woman entrepreneur because it is a reality that a large portion of women have many more hurdles to go through in order to start a business, in order to run a business. I also am a single mother. So where my other counterparts possibly don't have to think about childcare, that kind of thing, and I see it in business as well, where I was coaching somebody the other day. They were a lady. She was called into an urgent meeting. It was with legal. She couldn't exactly say, no, I'm going to fetch my son. She had to, in 2 seconds, call on her support structure to be able to sort out her son. So there are definitely challenges. Plus, women ourselves, we can trip ourselves up. In the 1970s, they called it the imposter phenomenon. Now we call it the imposter syndrome. It's not that it is gender specific, but there's a different interpretation of how this imposter syndrome works out between male and female. I find that women question whether they should be there or not, because there's research that shows that a woman will know 100% whether she can do something or not before she tries it. Whereas men, they will, if 50, 60%, if they kind of know what they're doing, they'll go for it. They have imposter syndrome. Men have imposter syndrome as well, but it represents more as, I'm going to be found out as a fraud versus I shouldn't be here. The other thing with women is that very often women don't see other women running businesses. So my answer to that is then go where the women aren't. Just go there. So it's quite complex. Another thing about women in business is how many women entrepreneurs are actually documented and actually running proper registered businesses.
We're going to have to take a break now, but when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with Debbie Wheal. She is the director and coach at Roots Coaching. Stay tuned.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.